You want to introduce yourself, Carlos? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Carlos. I basically I've been working for 6 years now at Accenture in the strategy and consulting area, and basically I wanted a change in my career and basically switch job, probably continue in the consulting world, but maybe I was looking for a top consulting firm, so basically McKinsey, Bain, or BCG. But I'm also open to other opportunities. So I thought that the best way to achieve this was to pursue an MBA. And to do this, I had several references that told me that Kevin was a great and that he could prepare people for this GMAT very well and in a very efficient way. He's got very good material. His explanations are clear. It's all a very structured course, so I completely recommend it. After doing several simulations, I was facing some trouble, so he provided additional resources, which were also extremely useful. And I finally achieved a 680 after three tries. A 680 is a percentile 83, which is good. It's not an awesome mark, but it's quite good. It's quite high. And I also received the very important feedback from Dr. Hubert, which told me, no, stop there, because a 680 is the right mark for you, and you don't need to repeat the GMAT another time. So that saved me a lot of money, a lot of effort, and it was a very good advice. And that's why I also recommend you to collaborate with Dr. Hubert, which accompanied me through all my MBA applications. I applied to INSEAD, which was my first option, and to IESE in Barcelona, which was my plan B. Of course, because of my personal situation, the 1 year format that INSEAD offers is a much more convenient format. And I was accepted a few weeks ago, and well, actually last week. I was impressed. I'm super happy. I think INSEAD will combine all the factors that I'm looking for. For example, networking, international scope, career opportunities, etc., etc. So I'm really looking forward to it. I also think that it's a very interesting format also because there are two intakes for INSEAD. One is in September and the other one is in January. So if you start in January, you have the opportunity to do an internship. Although it's a 10-month program, you do the first 6 or 7 months until June late June, and then you start your internship, which increases your possibilities to get hired in a top firm, and then you finish your academic part of that, until December. So I think in 12 months you can really change your career and achieve your goals. So basically, I've been collaborating with Kevin and Dr. Hubert for a long time now. It's been a long and tough journey, but the result has been satisfactory. I'm super grateful to them and very happy. So,
yeah. So there are many things to say. Hello, Kevin, by the way. Huh? Hello, Kevin. You okay? Yeah. So basically, there are many things that I took notes while you were talking, Carlos. But there are, of course, many things to consider. So the first thing is that it's a bit probably, but when I met Carlos, 12 months ago, so I knew that he was the right material for INSEAD. I knew because, of course, he studied first his international, because I said, okay, Bodrato, it doesn't sound really Spanish. He told me, no, my father is Italian. So I said, okay. So yes, and Carlos, by the way, in your first name and last name, you're already international. So you have an Italian, Spanish first name and an Italian family name. So he was already international. And when I spoke to him, he told me that he had an international profile. So not only he's still working for Accenture. So of course it's the type of profile that they like. So he's already working in consulting. Then he studied at CUNEF, which is one of the best business schools in Spain. And finally, that someone who has good values. Then if you have a lot of leadership activities, Carlos, someone who has good values, who is already married, who has, how can I say, who is established in life, he knows where he's going. So sometimes we had some discussions together, by the way. So I can see that Carlos is a person who has values and who is quite strict. So that's something that they like. So basically, when I met him, I said, "Well, you have a great profile, and you should go for it." It's true that it took time. You agree, Carlos?
Yeah, yeah.
That there was
and
one of my colleagues calling you, and I was thinking, what's going on with this Carlos? What's going on with this Carlos? I did not understand. And then you told me that you had this, you were struggling with the GMAT. Okay.
Yeah.
You finally ended up with a 680. Of course, without a good GMAT, you don't get in. Even though, if some of you are really, really interested by INSEAD, it happened to me that I have students applying for INSEAD with a weak score. Okay. And INSEAD will never reject you because your score is weak. Okay. If you have a good profile, they will simply ask you to retake the test, and they say, please retake the test and improve it. Really, they want you to be in the top 25% of the test, so you score in the close to the 700, but you don't need to do so. Okay. By the way, so basically that's what they want. By the way, regarding the GMAT, when I said to Carlos that he should apply, he said that the score was not very balanced because your math score was good. The developer score was not in the top 20% of the GMAT.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, and at the same time, as you know, this year it was very selective. I said to myself that it was important that you start to go into the process, that we could no longer procrastinate, we could no longer wait. And plus, at the same time, I thought that if they believe that the verbal score is not strong enough, they would ask him to retake the score. We have nothing to lose. Either they take him like this, and probably they have hesitated a bit, okay, before giving you the approval. At the same time, I know that they don't have that many students from Spain coming up applying. So I know that with a 680 you can do it. And by the way, there are other means of assessment. So if you have studied at CUNEF and you work for Accenture, they say anyway, he has the analytical skills, he has the reasoning skills, the internal exposure to do so. So we don't need to be reassured further than that. Okay, but we took a small risk. Okay, it's not like Luz with us today and with our student from Peru, because as you know, we have a strong presence in South America. When I saw Luz, I said a woman from South America and from Peru, 690, they take her right away. So I had no doubt as well. So you have to know at the same time at INSEAD, they have profiles, and of course, a white male from Accenture is more common than a woman like Luz who works for in the retail sector for auctions. You see, so basically, yes, they want diversity. By the way, they call themselves the business school of the world. Okay, so they want the world in their classroom. Okay, so 680, for instance, you see, Carlos, if you are Indian, no way. I would have advised you to apply, and probably if you're Indian, they will probably not even give you a chance to retake the test. They will simply kick you out. Alors, basically, Kevin, since we work together, we're also very good friends. What have you done with Carlos? How have you supported him after the class? Because I see that you have students, you have Stefan, you have other students. What did you do to support him after he was done with the class? What have you done?
What did I do to support him after?
What type of support of guidance did you offer him after the class? What was your interaction with him after that?
After the GMAT?
The GMAT class.
None, because I don't know anything about applying to MBA programs.
No, but you know, he took the GMAT several times, so I know that you have been following him, you have been advising him, you have been giving him more material. That's what you have done. No?
Sure, yes. I mean, he had done the exam once and he had exhausted all the material, but luckily we have a stash of material that we could use to keep improving.
That's what he has done. So it's very important. That's what I say to students. Go to see, even if you're done with the class, you can always meet Kevin. Kevin is always available for you. And if you don't do well, ask him for more support. He'll give you extra material, and his guidance is always very useful. Non, non, je peux pas. So, non, je peux pas. So basically that's something important. Alors, basically, Carlos, that's something that you can explain that students do not understand very well. Is that, can you explain the application process at INSEAD? Because it's something that they don't really understand. It's a very specific application process. Can you explain the different stage of the application process? And by the way, what INSEAD is doing now is going to become very common. Okay, now, how does it work?
Okay, well, basically, after you've taken the TOEFL and the GMAT and have an acceptable score, the next stage of the process is to write down some essays. You have some general essays to provide details about your profile. For example, what are your post-MBA goals, or tell me about a challenging experience you've had and how did you handle it. And then you have motivation essays, which basically is more related to your ambitions. So of course, it was very useful to speak with you for this part, Dr. Hubert. You provided me with many examples from other students. You knew well my profile, and you, what I value the most is that you really gave it a turn, because I didn't know how to differentiate myself from other people. Of course, you have plenty of people who have studied business like me that come from large consulting firms, but you really, I think that you made it more interesting. So that's a very good way to differentiate from other applicants, probably. After this part, you have to you have to speak in front of the camera. You have for video interviews.
It's called the Kira Talent. It's called Kira Talent. Okay.
Yeah, Kira.
If you have taken the TOEFL, it looks a bit like the TOEFL, except that you have a video interview and you have 5 questions. Huh? You remember the question that you had? So basically, that's something pretty new.
Yeah.
So basically, INSEAD differentiates from the others in that they have an application like the others. They have letters, okay? But they have the Kira interview that you have to take maximum 48 hours after you have applied, okay? And you have 2 interviews with alumni. Huh? When the trends, by the way, is more interviews, 1 interview with a member of the committee. INSEAD is 2 interviews with alumni, okay? And the Kira Talent. So can you explain the Kira Talent? Can you share your experience with others? Because that's a bit scary, by the way, the Kira Talent, no?
Well, absolutely not. I think it was the easiest part, actually. As you said, you have 4 questions in total. One, you have about 45 seconds to prepare, which is slightly more than what you're given in the TOEFL exam for the first question of the oral section. So 45 seconds to prepare, 1 minute to speak, and you have to answer a question like, tell me about an exam, a person that has influenced your life. And for example, I said Mario Draghi because, I think that guy is awesome. He was chairman of the BCE, whatever. So he was an inspiration for me. And after 60 seconds, the system cuts you. And that's it. Your participation is saved in the platform, and you go on to the next question, which can be about your future goals, midterm, long-term goals. You have other questions about tell me a funny story or something like that. So it's there are many sorts of questions, but in all of them you have more than enough time to prepare. That's for sure. And before you get into the actual Kira interview, you can practice, because they've got a bank of questions where you can record yourself and just practice question after question until you feel confident, and then you.
Okay. So basically, if you come back to the first part of the admission process, so INSEAD has a very different admission process from the others. First, the essays. For instance, there is no question about INSEAD. I don't know if you notice, when you apply to IAC, when you apply, I don't know, to Wharton, when you apply to Columbia, to Chicago, there's a question, why Chicago? Okay. So they don't ask you any question on the school. Okay. Now, regarding the Kira talent, it's difficult to know exactly what they want, but we have been able to analyze the different type of question that you get. So basically, there will be a question about career goals, for sure. There'll be a question about why INSEAD, at least, because we need that at least once. There'll be a question about personality. There'll be a question about behavior, okay? And there will be a question about leadership, okay? And with Carlos, we have rehearsed, okay? This question, remember, and of course, you have additional practice, so you can get used to the format in the same way as you can buy extra TOEFL test, but on the GMAT, on the Kira test, you can also practice on the platform. So basically, and there is a certain way of answering to this question, and we practice with Carlos. So that's was it. So, and then you had to wait 4 to 5 weeks before you have an interview. So what was the interview like? So INSEAD is a bit different from the others. Is that 2 interviews, not 1, and with alumni. And I'm writing now strategy guides. I was very surprised to see that in reality, the 80% of the school in the world, of the masters, of the MBAs, executive MBAs, have interviews with a member of the school. And INSEAD is the only one that has an interview with, is one of the few with Columbia, for instance, that has an interview with 2 alumni. So what was the interview like, Carlos? What were the interview like with that?
Well, my impression was a very positive one in both interviews, which were very friendly interviews. Especially the first one was more like a conversation, and the specific questions he asked me about INSEAD and my, the industry I liked and where I would like to pursue my career were very, it was an hour interview, and the formal questions lasted for 20 minutes. The rest of the interview was a conversation with someone, with an alumni from my country, from Spain. And actually, I asked most of the questions. It was impressive because, it was a way to show my interest, and it all went very well. And he said that he would recommend me straight away, so before ending the interview. So it was great. And the next interview was a few weeks later with a Portuguese woman, a very busy person, but also very friendly. She shared her experience with me. She gave me useful tips, and she asked questions which I have to say I was prepared, because when you write down your essays, there are many aspects of your application, of your profile, that you sort of stand out. So basically in the interviews, it's just repeating that for the more formal questions. And then you can ask the person about their own experience, what they like the most, job opportunities, etc., which was also very, very enriching, and it really made a difference, because in the same interview they get to know you as a person and as a professional, and on the other hand you also get a lot of information from them. So it's very time efficient. I really liked it. For example, applying to ESE, the process was much longer, I have to say. of course, they spent a lot of time with me. But when you're applying to more than one MBA, and you're really not fed up, but really tired of spending so much time in the GMAT, and then the applications, and then the interviews. So you really appreciate when a process is so time efficient like this one.
So that's something. That's something important to show that, for instance, IAC, you have a jury. I start with alumni. When you have an interview with IAC, it's the jury, because they want to control. And of course, when you are with the jury, you cannot really ask personal questions. There's no exchange. So the thing that inside, you also have a meeting with first of all, you have meeting with an alumni, because they have a lot of applicants. Inside, there's probably 5,000 applicants, and 1,500 get an interview. It's impossible to manage. So that's why they ask alumni to be involved. But it's also a way for them to sell the school, and also probably to convince you to go there, because that's what Carlos said. I was more convinced by INSEAD than I was by EAC. Now some people may say I would prefer to have an interview with the jury, because at the same time it's more neutral, and you never know what can happen with an alumni. But at the same time, I think that the objective of the interview at INSEAD is to see if you fit well. Okay, very few students will get rejected after the interview. Basically, they test the right fit. So normally, when you have an interview, you have 80% chance of getting in. Okay, so unless something wrong happens, it's very unlikely that you have a no. Now, of course, what you have to see is that even though Carlos had the thing that the interview was very relaxed, they have to complete a letter, and they have to complete a form, okay, in which they will be agreed, there will be an assessment. It looks a bit like the letter of reference. It is slightly easier, the one-page document, but they have to send an assessment, okay? According to me, it's not very important. According to me, it's like 5% of the application, and it's very rare that you have a bad assessment, okay? As long as you're like Carlos, a nice guy who smiles, who speaks well, there's no reason that it doesn't work. But basically, they want to find if you belong to the same, if you can belong to the inside community. So the question that I asked, so Carlos, as you know, you had the choice. When you got accepted to IAC, you told me that you would choose INSEAD because it's a shorter program.
Yep.
So why did you decide to take a short program? Is it because you're in a hurry? You want to go back to work rapidly? You don't want to spend too much time? You believe that you know enough? Why?
Yeah, well, actually, there were many reasons. The first one is that I'm married, so my wife has to keep on working during the time that I study. So basically, that was my main reason. The shorter the program, the better. Of course, I was aiming to two very important schools. The goal is to another reason was the prestige.
That's why, for instance, you didn't pick up HEC because it is a 16-month program, or LBS because it is a 21-month program.
Yeah, exactly.
The duration was an obstacle for you.
No,
and anyway, you knew that you had a good profile, so you said, try these two. By the way, we discussed together about IAC because at the beginning, you didn't want to apply to IAC. And I think that we had the one-on-one.
Well,
and then you met them through the one-on-one, and it convinced you, or you wanted to apply finally, or you had the idea?
Yeah, they spent so much time with me answering my questions and everything that I really got a very good impression of their way to to teach and everything. They've got the case method, they've got the top companies as well. But of course, another reason is that leaving my comfort zone, which is going to another country, also brings opportunities, and that's what INSEAD is not too far from my country. It's a 2-hour flight, so that's another important reason. But essentially, you get a very good school, which is among the first within the first 4 schools in the world, including the American ones. You get a very international experience. You get a very good education and background, of course. The opportunity cost is a lower one because I would stop working for 1 year, ideally, not 2 years, which I think is way too much. And I get an internship in that 12-month period. I think it's an optimal way to, to give your career the change that it needs. You also have a very high diversity. Well, you've got very international students, many different backgrounds, professional and geographical. So I think that's enriching. If in 1 year you can fit, a very good networking that will bring contacts for the rest of your life in every single corner of the world, and you can get, maybe not a deep education like the one that ES or LBS will provide in 2 years, but you will still get a very good material and you will cover a very interesting syllabus. But you will also work, you will also travel a lot. You have the opportunity to go to Wharton for a period, or to the Singapore campus if your base campus is Fontainebleau in France. So you get to do many things in a short amount of time, and of course it's expensive, but for you to understand more or less, well, you probably know, but in INSEAD is 89,000, ES is 87,000, but the opportunity cost, of course, is much lower in the case of INSEAD. So I was also looking at that. So these were the main reasons. I think I've chosen wisely. Also, an important thing, the Alumni Network. The Alumni Network, I'm interested in having, because I would like to come back to Spain in 1 year or 2 years after the MBA program. So I would like to, have contacts in my home country for future opportunities as well. So I think INSEAD provides that. Of course, in the case of ESA, it's the better known university in my country, but INSEAD still provides very good ones. So that was another major point.
So that the alumni, to give you an idea, you see, Carlos, remember that when I moved to Brussels, I was invited by an INSEAD. So there was an innovation prize offered by INSEAD. And Belgium is not a big country. And I checked the number of events that INSEAD sponsors or is part of. In Brussels only, which is small, they have like 12 events per year. Imagine in Belgium only. I let you imagine in London, they are very, very active. Okay. I'll give you an example. For instance, Harvard does not even have one event. Harvard Business School does not even have one event per year. Wharton, not even one. So that's why when they said that we have a network, the network is very active and dynamic, it is true. And plus, what is good with the INSEAD network is that in the US, they combine the network with that of Wharton. Okay, which means that of course INSEAD has a great network in the US, but even bigger thanks to the collaboration with Wharton. So it means that everywhere in the world, in Hong Kong, you have, even I tell you, even in Belgium, and I know that in the Netherlands they are even more active. So the network is something important. And why? Because INSEAD has about 1,000 students. If you compare to LBS, it is about 200, 300. HEC 300. So it cannot be compared to the others. So yes, IE has 400. Okay, so it's quite big, but they have a lot of alumni. So there's an effect. Plus, they have been the first one in Europe. INSEAD was created in 1958, whereas London Business School launched its first MBA in 1962, and IAC was later on, HEC later on. So they have a big advantage that they were the first one to launch an MBA, and at that time it was a 1-year MBA, which was of course unique. And it still is. Okay. So Kevin, you have a question to ask to Carlos because you have not seen for 6 months now, no?
Yeah, more or less.
Do you miss the GMAT?
Oh, no. No. I think about it every couple of days, but
you have to see, Kevin, that it is a traumatic experience for some of them, and it's a traumatic experience. So basically, someone, Federico Donati, asked me for all type of programs over the GMAT score. Not all of them. For instance, if you apply to IE, you see Federico, you can take the IELTS. If you apply, I don't know, to a lot of US programs, they also accept the executive assessment test in lieu of the GMAT. Some programs do not ask for the GMAT. For instance, Warwick Business School doesn't ask for the GMAT. The GMAT, can it be used elsewhere? Yes, it can be used. For instance, you can put it on your resume. Many put their GMAT score on their LinkedIn profile. Alors, bad news for you, Carlos. So they estimate that the good score starts from 690. When I work with McKinsey, then BCG, they will tell me, if you want to send a student, they need to score at least 690. But don't worry. Just what they say. They will probably interview you. Don't worry. But they say that they have a sort of cutoff in big banks and in consultancy that is 690. Okay. So if you start so that's a score that can be used. They will check when you apply for the BCG, Ben McKinsey. They will check your grades. They will also check your GMAT. Okay, the score that you have sent, because for them, it's a way. You have to know that, for instance, when Ben International launch his recruitment campaign at LBS at INSEAD, they have 800 applicants. Okay, out of the 1,000, and if you see that 200 are consultants already, so it means that everybody applies to this school. And why? Because salaries are extremely high. It's good to have that on your CV. And when you put INSEAD, BCG on your CV, it's a winning combination. It helps the resume quite a lot. So and of course, if you have a good GMAT, it helps in the recruitment. But that student who got accepted to these schools with to these companies with less than 690. Okay.
Yeah.
So Carlos, alors Luz, was it informative for you? No, because you have been through the same process. So maybe she left. So tell me, Carlos, famous last words. What would you say?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So what do you want to say? What do you want to add today?
Well, actually, that I'm very happy with the whole experience. It's been a long and tough journey, but I finally got to where I wanted to get. Of course, I hope that the INSEAD experience is useful, but getting admitted is a very important milestone for me. And of course, I will try. I will be happy to answer all your questions if you want to ask me offline or whatever. I will send. Well, Dr. Hubert will be able to share my address. And
if you want, yes.
Anyway,
we organize 3 times a year one-on-ones. And remember, Carlos, you met Nathan Esten. Remember that you organize a one-on-one. You met Nathan Esten from INSEAD. So probably I will ask you this year to be also one of the interviewers, because people, I know that people they prefer to talk to you than to me. So they prefer to talk with someone who has, or to someone who has experienced the application process. Okay. It's funny because yesterday I have a student who got accepted to the MIM. So as you know, INSEAD has an MIM and an MBA and also an executive MBA. And he told me, once I've been accepted to INSEAD, I cannot fail my life. I thought it was funny. but he felt that yes, of course, it's a big step forward in life. Yeah, it's a big step forward. You know, it's a program that sells pretty well, and if you know how to do it, you can do a lot with this program.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. I will see you next week.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a question. For what European programs is the integrated reasoning score important?
I would say that for what LBS, it's for sure it's important. Okay. INSEAD, I don't think so. Okay. IMD as well. So I would say LBS, Oxford, Cambridge. Okay. The others, they don't really care, but of course, try not to get a 4. But I would say the schools that are basically, as you know, some schools were involved in the in establishing the integrated reasoning. Okay, some schools, as you know, in Europe are very involved in the GMAT. And you know, when we meet, when we used to meet once a year at the GMAT conference, the schools that are very involved in the GMAT normally are LBS and HEC. So of course, if they have asked the schools to the GMSC to implement integrated reasoning because that's something that they want. So of course, imagine that that AMD or IE or VAU or ESCP does not really care. So I would say basically Oxford, Cambridge, LBS and LBS, HEC and INSEAD. Okay, but as you know, is integrated reasoning that important? I think that it can compensate a borderline GMAT score. What was your integrated reasoning score, Carlos? It was good, I guess, yours.
No, actually, no. My head was about to explode when I did my integrated reasoning part, and I got a 3 out of 8, but I got a 6 out of 6 in the analytical writing section, maybe.
You got 6 out of 6 because the AWA is 6, is 6 on 6. So you got a perfect score on the AWA. As you know, Kevin, the AWA does not really count. So for sure, the AWA does not count. Okay, much. And you see, he got a 3 out of 8 and he got in. Okay, so, and with the GMAT that is 680, so which is 40 points below the GMAT score. So it means that it doesn't count much. Probably LBS will consider it more. As you know, Kevin, schools do not understand these tests very well. Okay, they use them because they are asked to use them. And strangely enough, when they have a meeting with the GMSC, they never have any training on the test. You know, the GMSC has organized once a year. As the same, we have a meeting with the GMSC, and admission officers have a similar meeting, but it's not on the GMAT. It is on process, best practice, marketing, but nothing on the test itself. So admission officers don't know much about the GMAT, and they use the 200 out of 800 scoring. Sometimes they even split between double and mathematics, but they don't go further than that. So GAWA doesn't really count. Integrated reasoning, it should, but it seems it's already too much for them. Okay, Carlos. So thank you very much for meeting. Next Thursday, I will be with you, Kevin. We'll have a pizza party to celebrate the end of the year. Of course, you're all welcome. And it was nice to talk to you. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Carlo. Thank you, Luz. Thank you, Kevin, for being there. Okay.
Carlos, it's great to see you again.
Yeah,
yeah, it's great to see you again. And I'm not thinking too much about the GMAT right now.
Good.
No, but you have to go forward now. Okay.
Yeah.
When I took the GMAT, I thought that I will never do this test again. And then life, education brought me back to all that. But me too. I thought when I took it that it would be behind me. And I never thought that I would be involved as I am involved today. So I understand. Maybe, Carlos, you'll have a son. Me, my son, we turned 24 and we're now working for JP Morgan. He will start next week. He told me that maybe he will go for an MBA. So maybe you'll have a son. And in 20 years, your son will ask you to, since you're an INSEAD graduate, to prepare him, and you'll have to go back to the books with him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you'll be very good.
Don't worry, Carlos. I'll still be here.
You'll still be here. But Kevin will be 42, 45, so he's still young. You see, young, athletic. I don't know if I'll still be here, but Kevin for sure. Okay, we'll teach you from Greece because he will have his own web TV at that time.
Yeah,
and he will teach you from Greece. Kevin, I'm not sure that you will still be Kevin at scale, but you can find him in Greece.
Right.
But online, Kevin, will be online.
Sure.
Anyway,
All right.
From a nice Greek island. Have a good day. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And
bye.
I look forward to meeting you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.